Today, I had an excellent conversation with Bryan Reeves. Bryan is a former U.S. Air Force captain and is now thriving as an internationally renowned author and life relationship coach with a current focus on supporting men to have better lives and relationships. He's the co founder of Elevate Your Relationship, a live program for men ready to elevate their relationship game, which has served men in over 10 countries. He's the host of the podcast Men This Way, and his viral blog has been read by over 30 million people across the globe. Today, we had an enlightening conversation about his newest book, Choose Her Every Day or Leave Her, a guide for your journey through the transformational fires of love and intimacy. This title alone speaks volumes to me. I wholeheartedly agree that our intimate partnerships can be a powerful container for our individual and collective growth and transformation. In this chat, Bryan shares tools and skills that we can all use to build more conscious, caring, and life affirming relationships in our lives. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Love. Today, we're going to be talking so much about love as we do every week. Today, we're going to be meeting and talking with Bryan Reeves. Bryan, you are a life and relationship coach and an author of this incredible book. I loved it. It's called Choose Her Every Day or Leave Her, a guide for your journey through the transformational fires of love and intimacy. Thank you for being with us, Bryan. We're going to talk about the transformational fires of love and intimacy.
Hi, Robin. Even speaking as a guy, it's actually one of my favorite things to talk about, which I know is unusual in the world, but I love it. I'm excited. Thank you for having me
Oh,
on.
oh, me too. I was having a little visit with my mom on the phone this morning, and I said, today I'm going to be speaking to a coach that specializes in working with men around
Mhm.
relationships. I
Yeah.
know that your audience is also filled with
Uh,
women,
uh,
but you do have a large percentage of men that you are helping. So Bryan, this is like you're a rarity. Like there's not a lot of male coaches out there that are specializing working with men in relationships. So this is kudos to
yeah.
you, and I think it's such important work.
I definitely did not choose an easy path in life. I thought, okay, what is the hardest thing that I could possibly do as a coach? I know, get men to talk about their relationship challenges. Sign me up. I'm in. Actually, that's not at all how it happened. I kicked in like many men when we come into doing deep relationship work. I drug my feet. I kicked and screamed. I said, "No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to work with men." But life essentially gave me no choice. I mean, that's not entirely true. Obviously, I am at choice, but and I'm so glad that I'd get to do this work with men because men need so much support. But that's part of the challenge is we don't like to ask for support. We don't think we need support until life makes it abundantly clear that unless we get outside support, help, we're just going to continue running into dead ends and not having the lives and the love that we really, even men, are aching for.
Yes. They don't
I'm
want to
curious,
admit
what
it.
did your mom say? I'm just curious, what did your mom say
Oh,
when
my
you
my
said,
my my mom was like, right on. This is exactly what we need. We need more
right,
men coaches talking about love and relationships.
right,
That's
right, right.
exactly
Yeah,
what she said.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Bryan, you've got so your book is a collection of essays
Mm, mm, mhm.
sharing your journey in relationships. You talk about how years ago you had a career working as an Air Force captain.
Yep.
And this to me was a great learning because it really shone the light on which I could imagine when I read it. I was like, that makes perfect sense on how your experience in that environment, in that career. I mean,
Mm,
doing that kind of work, it's taught and you're trained to almost disengage from your emotions,
yeah,
disengage from your feelings.
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't want you to be, it's almost like
yeah.
take the human out of you so that you can do the job that you
Mhm.
have to do. Bryan,
Yeah,
can you talk about that, please? Because I think the fact that
yeah,
I'm going to just say a little bit more about this from my perspective on my
yeah,
learning when I read this in your
yeah,
book
yeah.
is The fact that you were in that state and you lived it for quite a while in your career, and then when you had to come back into your body and your feelings, it's like that experience like taught you a lot too. So,
Yeah. Terry Real identifies this, the psychologist Terry Real, who also is specialized in working with men, brilliant teacher and elder in this space, relational space. He identifies the original wound of men in our culture is disconnection.
mm,
Disconnection.
wow.
Yeah, we're taught to disconnect, not
Mhm.
feel our feelings. The original, interestingly, just a little side note, the original wound for women is disempowerment. You
Wow. Yeah.
can't do what boys do. You can't do this, you can't do that, right? So, here I am, 26. I've been in the Air Force for 10 years. I've been a boy in this culture for, 26 years now, and I can't feel anything. I'm so disconnected from my body. I can't, it's common knowledge that men struggle to cry, but what doesn't really get talked about is men also don't really know how to fully laugh, like
Oh,
authentic, full body from the belly laugh.
oh, wow. I've
Because
never heard that. Yeah.
yeah, because we're very truncated in our emotional range. If we chop off all the bad feelings, if we clench down around the negative feelings, well, how the hell are we going to feel true joy and true enthusiasm? We don't. So much of our joy and enthusiasm is performative. We want to
Wow.
be the happy-go-lucky guy around the other guys, around our friends. We want to laugh and be the life of the party, or just not be exiled from the party. So we play along. We put on the show, and that was certainly me at 26. I just couldn't feel anything, and from that place, I tried to do intimate relationships with women, and a it was just a catastrophe over and over and over. And so, I've always been, and this is true I believe this is true, Robin, for most men. Underneath the armor and the programming, we are deeply sensitive, deeply loving creatures. We yearn to love and be loved just like any woman does, any person does. I think that's just a core human drive to love and be loved, perhaps one of the most primal drives, um, to belong, right? For belonging. Even babies, right? Babies that are fed food but never held die. They don't survive infancy if
Right.
they aren't
That's
held,
right.
picked up, touched, loved in some meaningful way. And so it's true for men that we deeply yearn to love and be loved, but because of the programming, because of that original wound of disconnection, we show up then in intimate relationships. And in my case, like, I was very educated. I had a master's degree in human relations, for goodness sakes. Human effing relations is my
Wow.
master. I'm a master in human relations, Robin. Take that in. And my
Yes.
relationships with women sucked. I was so bad at it, despite being educated. Again, being very professional and as a captain in the Air Force, also having three sisters and two moms. Like, if anybody should know how to do relationship with women, I'm the guy. I was horrible. Because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what women wanted from me. Honestly, I didn't really know what I wanted from women, and I had no concept of connection and how to connect and what that meant. I was just, and I think this is the state for so many men, especially, and certainly many women too.
Yes. That's it's so it is fascinating because you were surrounded by strong women role models,
I was, yep.
right? You had your
Two
three
moms on top
sisters,
of it.
right?
Two
And your two
moms.
moms and your right.
Hmm. Hmm.
In the book, there's just so much to talk about, Brian, but you do talk about how there was, how important it is to have a, a very healthy male role model as a
Mm.
boy,
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
And you didn't have that with your dad
No.
and how important that really is. Can we start there? And then,
Yeah, well, I mean, who do we learn so speaking from the frame of being a man, identifying as a man, well, who do we learn about what it means to be a man but from other men, from elder men, from the men who would show us the way into manhood? It's not, I mean, this is a deep conversation, a rabbit hole that we could spend entire conversation talking about, but just very briefly, um, boys, we get testosterone, we get all of that that sort of does these biological things, but when it comes to how does a man talk to a woman, how does a man orient towards love, towards relationship, towards purpose, towards the community, towards nature, etc. Well, who are we going to learn that from but other men? Most of us, though, it certainly was in my case, we actually learned more about being a man from women in terms of what women expected. And then certainly I'm 49, so in my generation, women, the elder women were mostly just angry at men. A lot of the rise of feminism, which, by the way, I'm totally a feminist, not in the way that a lot of people use it pejoratively, but by being a feminist, to me, is like the original wound is women is disempowerment. It's just about empowering women, making sure that women have all the opportunities that men have,
Mhm.
right? So, um, where was I going with this, Robin? What am I saying? Male role models, right? Male role models. So most of us men, we're looking up, as boys, we're looking up to the elder men around us, and they're so disoriented.
They're
They're so
disconnected.
they are disconnected. Absolutely. I mean, there was alcoholism in my upbringing of men, again, just needing alcohol to feel or to regulate, or which doesn't work. And or there was stoicism, men that are completely emotionally not available, living in their heads, making up all kinds of judgments and stories about life and religion and all these things are just like on a deeply primal, visceral level. Like my young boy body knows that's not very trustable. I don't like this. It's like the two extremes of male role model we had was either the dominating, imposing tyrant
Hmm.
or the weak, impotent pushover.
Mm.
One of those two. Those are generally the for most of us looking up into the adult males. Those are the two options we had. You either be the dominating tyrant that conquers on the sports field, in the streets, in the bedroom, in the boardroom, or you're the nice guy. Be the pushover. Just go with the flow. Don't rock the boat. Neither of those models of man set us up for success in relationships.
Yeah.
And so a lot in my case, it was just paralyzing. I didn't know what to do. I just kind of got frozen in my body, frozen, because I didn't want to be the dominating tyrant, but I sure didn't want to be the weakling pushover either. So I didn't know what to do. I just froze. And again, now I'm in relationship in my late 20s, doing relationship with women, frozen,
Mm.
and that was painful for everybody.
Are you ready to take your relational skills to the next level? Join us April 12th to the 14th, 2024 for In Bloom, a love and relationship summit. Real Love Ready is putting you in the room with 10 of your favorite relationship experts, including Dr. Gabor Mate, Jillian Turecki, and Dr. Jody Carrington. Learn from the most trusted names in love with a weekend of skill building, growth, and community. Be there in person in Vancouver, BC, or join us virtually from anywhere in the world. Head to realloveready.com to learn more and secure your spot. You can use the code LOVE15 to save 15% off your tickets. I truly hope to see you there. So in your book, I just like really, Bryan, I've been talking to different people about it because of my learnings. I'm like, wow, that is just so, oh, that's so
Yeah,
valid. That is like, that's
yeah,
my experience. Like we know this, but I love it
yeah.
in writing. So you really do a great job of explaining feminine and masculine. And this is not
Thank you.
particular, like it's not
Hmm.
female, male. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
And you say um, masculine, the masculine seeks freedom,
Hmm.
the feminine seeks connection.
Hmm.
I would love for you to talk more about this, please. It's like the fundamentals inside of that
Yeah.
and the energy of feminine and masculine. And those,
Yeah.
it seems like they're opposing. And
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
each have feminine and masculine inside of us. But
Yeah.
okay, can we go into that, please?
Yeah, I think that's actually a great way to enter it because I think there's a lot of baggage with those terms. There's a lot of people will object to masculine and feminine, and I understand that. And there's a lot of even teachers, they tend to be a little on the younger side in the influencer sphere, that are imposing, this is what men do, this is what women do, this is what masculine does, this is what feminine does. And I think that that's really damaging and harmful,
Yep.
actually.
Me too.
So I like the frame that I like to enter it is just those two values. And David Data is really the OG teacher in this domain, and but just distilling all that down to the two values of connection versus freedom. The masculine value of freedom and the feminine value of connection. When people start to understand that these two very primal values are what is are what is dancing in relationship, it opens up a whole new way of being with intimacy. And what I mean by that is like before I was aware of this, my core value is more freedom. Doesn't mean connection isn't important, but I I default to freedom as the core value in this primal dance of dualities, right? And so what would happen is in my relationships with women whose core value tended to be connection. Not that freedom isn't important to them, of course it was. In the same way, not connection was important to me. It wasn't the predominant value at play in my nervous system, in my program, in my thought, all of it. And so I approached every relationship like, hey, this is a place where we get to feel free, me and you. So everything I did on some subtle level was about creating freedom for me, for her. The problem with that is the the connection value was not tended to well. I
Right.
had no idea what it meant. I had this experience. So I was in this relationship. In fact, the subject of choose her every day or leave her. It was a relationship I was in for 5 years, where I said I was all in, but I wasn't. And my actions revealed that. But again, I was so internally divided. Anyway, we would get into these arguments, Robin, where I would start to feel like I'm trapped. There's nothing I can say that will end this argument, that will get us out of this. So I feel trapped. I would begin to walk to the door. I'd be like, I can't, there's nothing I can do here to free us. I didn't use those words, Robin, but that was what was at play in my mind and my thinking. Is like, if you would just see the way I want you to see it, we'll be free of whatever the hell is happening here. We can put it
Right.
behind us and then we can rest, right? And when that wouldn't work, because she wasn't wanting to be freed in some way. She was wanting to feel connected with me, but I didn't get that. So I'm fighting for freedom over here, thinking I'm trying to do us both a service. She's not into it. I'm getting more and more and more trapped. So I would eventually be like, I need to leave the room. I have to leave. She was not okay with that. She would walk to the door and lock it, Robin. She would
And
lock the
now you're
damn
locked
door.
in, right? And the
And
offer
now
and
talk
you,
about
yeah,
trapped, right?
don't
Well,
control me, right? Like the freedom.
don't
You talk about this too, Brian. I'm like the I guess what how you would describe this, because of course
the
you teach
freedom
this.
of the objection, the masculine
The
objection.
objection is don't
Yeah.
control me,
Don't
which is
control
the
me.
opposite of freedom. The feeling of being
Exactly.
controlled.
Don't tell me what to do. Now, on the opposite, so what's happening for her? I mean, why is she locking the door? It seems like a really dumb thing to do. Why would you do that? Why would anyone do that? I would never do that to you. How could you do it? Right? Again, that's the freedom thought. And again, I'm not saying that this isn't important to people whose core value is more connection. Of course it is. But it's like it's the go-to. It's the predominant value that is at play. That's like, so what's happening for her on that side? Again, I didn't know this at the time, but in retrospect, I get it. She was very unskillfully, in the same way that I was unskillfully trying to create freedom for me and for her. She was unskillfully trying to connect. Lock the door because at least you don't leave.
Don't leave
If I
me.
don't leave me, and that's the feminine objection in any relationship argument or disagreement is don't leave me alone in this. Don't abandon me in this. Right. And what was
Yeah.
I about to do but abandon her, leave her alone, disconnect? We were already disconnected, but I'm like, now, okay, I'm really out now. Well, lock the door so at least at least we can stay here and keep fighting. It's an unhealthy form of connection, but it's still connection. At least we're connected. At least I'm not gone from the room. So, this cycle, I see this. I've been working with couples for 10 years now, and I've seen this cycle over and over. It doesn't always look the same. It isn't always a woman that is more a stand for connection. Sometimes the woman is more a stand for freedom first. But what I had to learn was that My role my isn't to just set my partner free, right? That's about me. What I can do is help my partner feel connected, right? What I needed to learn is how do I connect with my partner? How do I help her feel connected? Because I notice inside of that, when she feels connected, then she feels more free. In the same way, in reverse, what my partners had to learn is, well, how do I help him feel more free? And again, there's caveats, and it doesn't mean not having boundaries. It doesn't mean giving me permission to just run amok in my life and do whatever the hell I want to, regardless of the impact. Of course not. But how can she speak to me? What language can she use? How can she orient towards me in a way that doesn't give me the impression that she's trying to control me or take away my agency? That's very important to me. And when she's able to do that, and my wife Sylvie does that wonderfully. We both had to learn some new things in our first few years together, but we're very practiced at it. When she and so she can do that, so that helps me relax, and then I feel more connected. So it's like it's a very interesting dance that when we're unaware of this dance, things just don't go well.
Yes. So one of the stories you tell in your book is around Stan and Sonia. And you are coaching them
Yeah,
in the living room, and they're just at a standstill. They're having
yeah,
these repeat patterns like you just described with you having
yeah,
with your partner,
yeah, yeah,
and they're not getting anywhere. And so you're coaching them. And this is something that I think I've experienced and I've heard before from friends or, my girlfriends. And it's, they're in the same room, they're
yeah,
talking,
yeah,
and she's saying, I just feel completely disconnected from you.
yeah, yeah,
And he says, what the hell? I am
yeah,
right here.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
right here. We've been in this discussion. We're being coached.
yeah,
I'm right with you, babe. Like, how is it that you're not feeling
yeah,
connected?
yeah,
How is it? And it's not about, okay. I know at that time you were arguing with your girlfriend and she locked you
yeah,
in. Okay,
yeah,
physical, you're there.
right.
The
Yeah,
disconnection was happening
yeah,
for a while already. I can
yeah,
only imagine.
yeah,
And it's the emotional disconnection. It's the presence. It's how is it that you like when you're
yeah.
coaching people, Bryan, what is
Hmm.
the experience
Yeah,
there?
yeah. So men tend to think, so long as the bills are paid, the house ain't on fire, I'm not cheating on you or beating you, or yeah, yeah, we have no problems. Why are you not okay with our relationship? What is your deal? That's kind of the subtext going on in many men. Again, not all, but many men, right? Functional. We're functioning. Why are you upset? Why are you having a problem? And that's therein lies the problem. We completely don't understand. Not that those things aren't important, right? And I think what happens for a lot of men, there's a societal pressure. There's a primal drive. We men tend to get rewarded for having resources, for being able to provide. We have throughout history. Our reproductive opportunities go up if we have more resources, so we can provide for the babies that would result, etc. And so that still lives in our DNA, this belief that, hey, all I got to do is show up, provide, do the things that I'm just supposed to do, and this should go fine. You should have no
Exactly. Like, what's
problems.
the problem? Why aren't you grateful? Like, I'm doing all my jobs are done. I'm taking care of the house. I'm taking care of you. Why are you unhappy?
I'm not cheating on you. I'm showing up, like, and in this day and age, relationships serve a new purpose that for a lot of history they largely haven't, and that is emotional connection. It's emotional safety. It's, we don't just need children anymore to plow the fields. We want to have families because we want to experience love and connection. We're living in a new era that is unprecedented. I actually have a lot of empathy for men in relationship in the relationship context, because our forebears, our forefathers did not prepare us to be empathic, to be influenceable by our partners. Like, we're not prepared to do relationship in the way that it is expected to be done today. The Gottman Institute identified the top two complaints of women in relationship as he's not there for me and not enough emotional connection. Right. And again, he's not there for me. Most men are going to say, what does that even mean? What are you talking about? I do all the things. I'm checking off all the boxes that a man does. But this is the mindset, the frame we're trapped in, the masculine, what I call the masculine reward frame, which is I'm rewarded for my productivity, I'm rewarded for my output, I'm rewarded for the outcomes I create. Which again, if I'm in an argument with my partner, some difference, the only outcome that in my masculine reward system makes sense is that we resolve the problem, it's fixed, we both feel great, and we're done.
Mm.
And so I'm approaching it, I'm trying to solve a problem that I think I'm being presented with. I'm treating my wife or my girlfriend as a problem to be solved, and she ain't. That's not what she is, but she feels that from me. Now she's just spiraling further into disconnect, the feeling of I don't feel connected to you. So coming back to your question, what does that look like when I'm actually working with a couple? Well, uh, first off, it's helping couples understand that you're actually not fighting about money or about sex or the lack of. You're not fighting about you liking girls' photos on social media and her being pissed off about it. I mean, I know that's the details that you're fighting about, but what's really going on underneath is there's a crisis of connection
Crisis of
that's taking
connection.
place.
Hmm.
There's a crisis of connection, and in many cases, the longer a couple's been together, it's chronic and long standing, such that even you just load the dishwasher in the way your partner doesn't want you to, and it turns into a full-on fight that you end up just resenting and hating each other, and it goes on and on and on. So what I'm doing so often is just helping people learn how to connect, and doing that through new language, using new language, new ways of responding to upsets and frustrations, new ways of communicating upsets and frustrations. I'm often helping men use their body differently. One thing that I used to do when arguments would arise with any partner is I would cross my arms and turn, hold my breath or breathe really shallow across. What am I communicating to my partner in that
I'm
stance?
I'm closed. I'm armoring up.
Not available,
Mm.
right? What's the top complaint? He's not there for me. Not enough emotional connection. In my body, I'm communicating, like you said it, closed, not available. I'm not on your side. I'm defended. So, for example, just the simple act of turning my body towards her, dropping my arms, taking some full breaths, I'm relaxing my nervous system. Now I'm on a very visceral primal level beginning to communicate to her primal brain, hey, I'm with you. I'm with you. And notice that if the feminine objection is I'm not with you, don't leave me alone, just by my body, now I'm starting to soothe, speak into that objection in a way that is actually comforting. Right? I'm
I
using
really
my
love that, Bryan. I love that. And you also, I love this. In the book, you talk about three of the sexiest words. And we could also translate this into like three of the most important words, like, or
sure.
the
Yeah.
message.
Yeah.
And that does, you say, for a woman to hear from a man, I got this. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm here. I got you.
I'm
You're
I'm
not gonna
I'm
fall.
right.
You won't fall. You won't be left alone in this. I mean, that's the message I'm giving through my body, through my language.
Right.
And notice it's not I agree with your conclusions about why you're upset. It's
No.
not that. It necessarily, I mean, you may or may not get to that place, but so many couples, arguments become, they just go on and on and on because they think they have to, especially, we men think we have to get to that place where I need to agree with your reasons for your upset. And so long as I don't agree, we have a problem. And yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, that's going to be true,
Or find a solution.
or find a solution. But I'll often tell this to couples, no good solutions ever come from a state of disconnection. No
Yes.
good solutions come from a state of disconnection. You can come up with solutions, but it's not going to work, or it'll work temporarily. It's a little band-aid, or it's just going to create resentment. You're just building in future resentment because I didn't really want to do this, or she doesn't really want to do this, but we got to move forward. So learning how to connect, and that happens in the moment. That's not like, hey, I said I do 6 years ago. We're connected, woman. What the hell? I said I do. I still wear the ring. What's your problem? No, that's incredibly disconnecting. Just that stance,
Mhm.
right? So that's a lot of times that's what we're doing is using body language. Teach a lot of communication skills, um, because I mean that's where so many of us just were ignorant because no one ever taught us. And with a few little shifts, safety, that big sigh, when in disconnected moments of relationship, we tend to hold our bodies very tight because we're
Mhm.
scared. We're in that old fight or flight or freeze mode. We're scared. We don't feel partnered with the person in front of us. We actually feel I'm in the presence of an adversary. I need to protect myself from this person. So we hold our bodies tight. Like in my case, I cross my arms and turn. That's a tightening, a closing of my body. Well, that means then that actually I can unwind that. Well, what does that look like, right? So I can learn just simple skills, certain language. And it only takes one of us to go first. It doesn't matter who, typically, but when I learn, and I spent years learning this even with my wife, some of the things that would help her take that big sigh. Oh, okay, wow. It's like, oh, I feel safe. We are on the same side.
And that is something you talk a lot about too, Brian, is how important as women is to feel safe. And the three words for us is I trust you. I
Yeah.
right that we can say to a man
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that, and
I
that
mean,
takes a lot. That takes a lot. And this was fantastic. You talk about how you were at a large uh, summit or conference or a learning, and there was 2,000 people in the audience.
oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
the teacher asked,
Yeah.
"All right, men, I want to ask you, who in the last week out of
Yeah.
all of you when have you felt unsafe?" And you
Yeah.
said like five guys put their hands up, right?
Yep. Out of 1,000. Yep.
Yep. And then he's asking the same question of women. All right, I'd like to know, in the last week, how many of you have felt
Yeah.
unsafe? And like
Yeah.
thousands of women put their hands up.
Every
This
hand.
is, and
Some
that is
some
the
put up two.
experience. Yes, that's the
Yeah.
experience that as women, as girls
Yeah.
growing up, like I was talking to a man yesterday about this, and I was saying, for sure, like I'll go downtown and it's getting dark and I'm going back to my car
Yeah.
and I'm looking right, left, right, everywhere. Like
Hmm.
you're already
Yeah.
on guard. That's just the
Yeah.
the reality of living in a female body, a woman's body.
Yeah.
Just you'd think that something could happen at any given moment. And so in an intimate relationship, the
That's right.
trust piece, the
Yep.
safety piece is just so important for us, especially with a
Yeah.
partner that we are giving ourselves fully to.
One of the most beautiful things that I see in working with men is, especially men in long-term relationships where there's been mutual dissatisfaction in the relationship, is when men start to have that realization, that wake up to, oh my God, my wife has never felt safe in the world. And not only has she not felt safe in the world, I finally now understand all the ways that I've been showing up that have caused her to not feel safe.
Wow.
That is a profound realization for men that, again, it's not necessarily an easy path forward from there because there's usually a lot of practice that's then required for that man to change the pattern, to break the pattern, to create new momentum. They, in some cases, I mean, I've worked with couples that have been together 40 plus years where that's all they've been doing is betraying each other's trust, not by cheating on each other, I don't mean, but I mean in by expecting sex, for example, because I pay the bills, therefore you should give me sex. I mean, that's a betrayal of a woman's autonomy, of her own agency, and yet so many men still carry that expectation. And again, I think it's it's that social pressure of, well, if I'm expected to provide, what are you providing? You provide, give me your body, kind of thing. And
Mm.
again, when men start to realize our role, even the so-called good guy, the guy who's in relationships, like, I'm a good man, I do all the things, I don't hurt her, I don't, by physically, I mean, you know when he starts to realize, oh my God, whoa, not only is my wife come into this relationship having a hard time trusting men, I've been showing her over and over and over that she can't really trust me either, to really be there for her, to advocate for her. That goes off like a bomb in men's heads when they first see it. And it's one of the most beautiful things that I get to witness, because so much healing begins to arise. So much empathy gets created for men when they start to see their partners as not flawed creatures. Men tend to orient towards women as though they're flawed versions of men. Now look, women tend to orient towards men often as though we're flawed versions of women, right?
I actually never thought of it that way, but okay.
Well, I see that a lot. Men are
Yeah.
expecting women to be way more like us, and a lot of women are expecting men to be way more like them.
Yeah.
And when again, I know we're talking very, very heterosexual terms here. I'm predominantly heterosexual, so it's the world, it's the way that I see the world through, and I tend to speak through these lenses and filters. Um, but when a man begins to understand and appreciate that his female partner has a fundamentally different experience in her body, in the world, like, that's the beginning of empathy. That's the beginning of a bridge being built between their experiences that gives them a chance to succeed at relationship.
I think your book points to so many different ways that we can change our mindsets. And that what you're saying, what you just said, Brian, that is like the start. It's the awareness that we are seeing the world differently. We're living in the world differently, and understanding and empathizing with that other side so that we can, it's like like, right? It's the
Yeah.
understanding, the
Yeah.
acknowledgement, so that you can, and then you can move forward differently.
Yeah, and I think too, like in the book, the book is for men and for women,
Oh,
and I
yes.
and I think that's I think I hope one of the things I do well in that book is also help women understand. A lot of women sometimes get angry because when I go into this realm, it's like, I don't want to understand men more. They need to understand me, and I agree. I do agree with that. We need to do way more of the heavy lifting. I'm 100% enrolled in that. And though, still, if you're going to be in a relationship with a man, like, I don't believe in 50-50 relationships. I believe in
100,
100-100
100.
relationships.
Yes, I was going to say the exact same thing. It's
So
100, 100.
so I agree. We men need to step up and own our part, take on our 100%, and do that work, do that heavy lifting. Yes, that does not negate still a woman's or the other partner's responsibility for their 100%.
Mhm.
And it's my hope that even in this book, which I think is, the feedback I get is it's very validating for women. And I hope that it also helps women understand, likewise, what men are carrying, the burdens that we're carrying, the things that, like the very first chapter, the title is "No One Ever Taught Me How to Be a Man."
Yeah,
That matters in relationship.
it
That
does.
matters. I think that's important that women understand. We men are coming in so wounded, so disoriented, left alone by our elders, not only to,
Yes.
not trusting other men, so we don't trust ourselves. I mean, we're a mess.
The way
Yeah.
that we operate in relationships,
Yeah.
until we start employing these very important skills that we didn't
Yeah.
learn in our
Yeah.
homes,
Yeah.
is we operate in the way that we were taught.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the most frustrating things for me. So my wife Sylvie, she loves watching all these reality relationship shows on Netflix. Love Is Blind and all that
Yeah.
kind of
Oh, I
stuff.
know.
And
I love them too. I have to watch them. Even though they're
look,
really somewhat trashy. I know.
it's hard for me to admit, but I get into it too. I wouldn't watch it except for Sylvie, but but one of the things that's so maddening for me is that the people on these shows, they don't get any help to
What
they
a
don't get
good
any
point,
wise
Brian.
counsel. They don't
They
get
need
any
they need a Bryan
therapy.
Reeves right there to be like, come on, guys. Actually, that would be this is a good show idea. I'm being serious.
Right? And so they're like, to your point, they're just kids, often, 20 to 30 years old. Like, to your point, just doing what their parents either did or something in reaction to what their parents, they have no idea what they're doing. They're set up, it's like they're set up to
No,
fail. And
God, that's
it's
true.
heartbreaking because anyway, but I think that's just a microcosm of what we're doing at large in society when we enter relationships. We're what I call winging it, just using the
We're
wing it
winging it.
method.
Yep. And
It's the
most
wing
of
it
us are
method.
winging it in a very bad way. So,
So,
Brian, I want to go into something you talk about in your book, and it's 5 signs a man is connected to his heart. Oh,
mm,
I really loved this part of the book. And there was a lot of like there was so much about your book, Brian. Honestly,
uh-huh.
I loved it. So the when you said he is patient.
Yeah.
And now
Uh,
we already talked about this in the beginning. He laughs easily and
mm,
authentically.
mm, mm,
Wow.
mm,
I
mm,
that was like you said
mm.
the earlier, that to me was like, wow, like that, why would that be one of the things? And you explained it.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you weren't taught, you were
Yeah.
taught to keep your emotions intact and like within
Yeah.
this like, these
Yeah.
limits.
Yeah.
And that means like the no depths of sadness or depths of
Yeah.
happiness and joy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He,
And certainly you don't laugh at someone else's uh it's like we don't laugh with people, we laugh at people when we're disconnected.
oh boy.
Yeah.
Number three, he is kind to the world. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
He's fully present.
Mm-hmm.
These last two I want to talk a little bit more about. He is passionately living his true purpose.
Mm. Yeah.
So he's fully present. This morning I listened to your episode. You do a lot of episodes with Tate.
Yes.
And of
Yeah.
course you do that. It's your podcast, right? And so you
Yeah.
were talking about presence and how do you demonstrate and how important presence
Mm,
is
mm.
and
Yeah.
how do we demonstrate presence in it just it that it in all relationships,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I
definitely.
love the
Yeah.
fact that you said our presence, remember that our presence is a gift.
Yeah. 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 Well, that there's a lot of layers to that
I know
sentence.
there
My
is, but
presence is a gift. Yeah.
that one is, and this kind of it goes back to what we were talking about around if we're feeling disconnected, giving our presence to our partner,
Yeah.
just like you said, I'm here, I'm facing you.
Yeah.
I'm giving you my undivided attention.
Yeah.
I'm not on my phone, even
Yeah.
during the argument or whatever's going on here. We can apply this so beautifully in all of our relationships, right?
Absolutely. Definitely. In fact, presence, I actually, the feedback I got from a friend of mine, a female friend of mine, years ago when I was single, just a woman that I would see occasionally at events in Los Angeles from time to time, and she gave me this feedback after I don't know a couple years maybe. She said, Brian, when I first met you for many months, I didn't trust you. I was like, oh, that's
Mhm.
interesting. Why? I wasn't trying to do anything to her, take advantage of her. I was like, oh, well, what? Tell me more about that. And she said, yeah, because every time I would sit with you, we'd be somewhere, I'd be talking with you, you would look around so much. Like your
Ah,
attention just kept bouncing around all these places. And I just felt like it just like you weren't really with me.
yeah.
Ah, that was such good feedback. I was so
Yes.
shocked by that. It it was so helpful to hear, and that's something, that's a lesson I've taken with me ever since. And that was just a friend. It wasn't she wasn't my girlfriend, certainly not my wife, wasn't just, but as a lesson that I've taken with me that, I think, again, speaking from the perspective of men, we tend to think, okay, if it's not the normal things like paying the bills, keeping us physically safe, not cheating, if it's not those, then it must be major grand gestures that I have to do. Trips to Paris, or I don't know,
No, that's not what we need, right?
dozens of roses every Tuesday. Like, no, it can be as simple as just breathing deeply, turning your body, uncrossing your arms, and paying attention, just giving her your attention, that can be profoundly healing. I'm not saying that's the ultimate solution to everything, but it's a start. And it's something you can do in any moment. And just that, I realize even when I'm with my wife, that's a lesson I take with me. If we go to a restaurant or something where there's a lot of TVs, it's very easy to want to just, oh, what, there's a game on. Let me look at that, and keep having my attention. I am very well aware that my wife is going to feel my lack of presence if I, give into that temptation too much. It's so subtle. It's so simple. Not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. That TV is it's trying to get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a practice I can lean into, knowing that that's there, or it's a phone or children. Children even can be really big distractions from intimacy for a couple for many years. And learning just little skills like this can help couples stay connected even when things are chaotic and there's so many demands at your attention. But we were talking about staying connected to heart.
Yeah.
Right, getting connected to heart. And I think that lesson applies. It's not a big, giant, grand gesture. It's simple, little things. Breathing, staying focused. Offering attention, paying. It's like it's like a currency. Attention is a currency. I'm offering this. That laughing. Well, no, that being kind to the world. I want to say something about that too, Robin, because I think there's this misunderstanding that being kind to the world means having no boundaries, accepting whatever is in front of me, never being mad, never not enforcing consequences for anything, being the nice guy. I mean, this is for men, it takes the shape of being Mr. Nice Guy, just going with the flow, creating no conflict. And that is not at all what I'm pointing at here. Not at all. As I like to say it, a man connected to his heart, a man who is committed to love, can still put someone in jail, can still end a relationship, can still, is still very connected to the warrior archetype in his blueprint, or her blueprint for that matter, man or woman, still has that warrior archetype that they can access whenever necessary, whenever the world that they stand for is being threatened. Right? But we do so from a place of compassion, not anger and rage. There's this great story of a samurai warrior whose king was assassinated, and so the samurai warrior sets out to catch the assassin and kill him, and he eventually tracks down the assassin, and he pulls out his sword and he's about to cut off the assassin's head, and the assassin spits on him right before he does it. And the samurai stops and he puts his sword back in his sheath and he walks away, because in that moment, killing this assassin was no longer about honoring his king. Now it was about disgust and rage because he was spit on. Right, so he walked away from that moment until he could come back and kill the assassin for the right reasons. But that matters. I think that's important. I think that's an interesting distinction. It's that I think more men and women we need to sit with. Because there's so many social repercussions. I mean, so anyway, yeah.
Well, I really like the acknowledgement of all those things. So we have to end because time's up. And
that's right.
I love our discussions, Bryan. This is the juice that I'm like fueled on every day. So I would love everybody to read your book. I listened to it and read it twice. So it was just I loved your narrating of it too, which was it's awesome.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna end our chat with a blessing based on your words and your teachings, Bryan.
Okay.
May we see how our intimate relationships can act as transformational fires, surfacing all of our old wounds and fear-based beliefs so they may finally be witnessed and healed. May we be our own light. May we create our best lives. By doing so, we can attract others who are also living authentically in their light. And may we ultimately be devoted to the mastery of love.
That's beautiful. I wrote that. I love
I
it.
wrote
That's
the
so good.
blessing, but it was all of your teachings,
Oh,
Bryan.
okay. Good. Yeah, that's beautiful, Robin. Great. Don't let me take credit for what is not mine. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Bryan
job. That's
Reeves.
beautiful. Thank you, Robin. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. Visit realloveready.com to continue learning with us. Please rate and review this podcast. Your feedback helps us get you the tools and guidance you need to form more loving relationships and create positive change in your life. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well. Many blessings and much love.